While I was away on vacation last month, I had the great opportunity to visit and, in fact, cruise the Panama Canal. And like you, I've, of course, known about it, but I have not known really all the facts about it. It's certainly understandable to me after visiting why it's considered the eighth wonder of, what do you call, man-made wonder of the world, because it's a stretch of 48 miles of channel and dams and 3 sets of locks that connect the Atlantic to the Pacific Oceans. I also learned, maybe you know, that the canal was actually begun by the French back in 1880, and they spent about a dozen years working on it, and they finally threw in the towel due to so many obstacles, so many deaths of workers due to malaria. And so it was finally, as you know, finished by the United States during the period of 1904 to 1914. And in the course of the construction, both among the French and the U.S., over 22,000 laborers died from disease or from accidents. It was a cost to the United States back in 1914, $375 million, which I understand in today's dollars is close to $8 billion. And over 60 million pounds of dynamite was used in constructing, and digging the ditches and cutting through the mountainous areas. And now something like 13 to 14,000 ships travel through the canal annually. And it takes, I'm told, about 15 hours to travel the entire 48 miles of the canal. And actually, though, a lot of that time is just ships waiting their turn to get in. The toll I found was really striking. If any of you complain about the tolls rising on the Indiana Toll Road, forget about it. Because the toll for a good-sized ship going through the canal is $300,000. So, and I understand historically the least amount ever paid as a toll for the canal was 36 cents. And that was by a swimmer who actually swam the whole canal back in the early 1900s. In the early 1900s, when it was completed, the canal actually shortened a merchant ship, the trip by sea from, say, New York to San Francisco from about 13,000 miles to 5,000 miles. And from what would normally be a 60-day sea voyage, it will cut down to a 30-day sea voyage. And so it really is quite a marvel. But as I thought about it, listening and paying attention to all the details and factoids about the canal, it occurred to me that the canal is nothing but a shortcut. Probably the most costly shortcut ever made by us humans. And I was thinking, it just made me think of how much we, and perhaps maybe we Americans especially, love shortcuts. I mean, think about it. We all find our shortcuts. Now that I've been here several years, I know the shortcuts to get to the Chancery office in Kalamazoo. I know the shortcuts, like for this morning, to get to St. Anne in time for their 9:30 Mass. We have shortcuts, time savers in our kitchen, all the kitchen appliances that save us so much time and offer us shortcuts to get a meal finished and completed and so on. We love shortcuts. And yet today the scriptures remind us that for some things, and probably those more important things and the most important things in life, there is no shortcut. When it comes to relationships, important relationships, marriage, family, those deep friendships, maybe even some of those very important and strong working relationships that we have with people, there's no shortcuts to really having good, fulfilled relationships. We need to put in the time. We need to sacrifice at times. We need opportunities and experiences of reconciliation. We need experiences of failures, apologies, reconciliation, and new starts. That's, I think, what Jesus is getting at in this part of the Sermon on the Mount, which we've been listening to his sermon for a couple of Sundays and will continue in the near future. But today, Jesus is telling his listeners, you know, you've heard in the past the commandments. You've heard you shall not kill. What I say to you, even if you grow angry in your hearts, you're edging toward breaking that commandment. So pay attention to that as well. Don't just be satisfied doing the minimum, but in fact, strive to really look deeply into the commandments, what they're really all about. And don't try to get a shortcut to God, because God calls us to a total commitment, asking us to apply his commandments, the Beatitudes, and all of the teachings of Jesus to all the different relationships and circumstances and projects in our life. As wonderful as a shortcut may be now and then, let us be mindful that there are times when we certainly do need to make the full commitment, go the distance, and then find fulfillment, certainly at last, fulfillment in our God.